All right, this is Kevin Netwich Bonsai. I'm here with David Goose Mills, and we are here today to talk about fear. And our goal, as always, is to help shorten the learning curve of guys doing life. And so one of the things that's been an obstruction for pretty much every of the men we talk to about something that's gone wrong in their life or decisions that have to be made, often fear is a part of it. And so we want to have a conversation, and this is not about, although we may touch on it, the type of fear that one experiences in combat. I've never been shot at, so this is not the fear I'm referring to. This is fear for most people making decisions throughout their life, and how it holds you back, how it gets in our way, and what can we do about it. And here to help bring us into that conversation as a person who has actually had to make decisions on fear, with fear, etc., is Goose. So thank you for doing this again.
Thanks,
and helping really get the Bonsai Chronicles up and launched and started. So appreciate it.
I love it. And like you said, this is such a common topic. Every single man and woman has dealt with this. And it's one of those things where I think when a man is afraid, he feels like he's the first man that's ever been afraid. Right, and he feels like there must be something wrong with him. There must be something weak about him. And part of this podcast and part of this lesson is understanding that every single person who's actually not clinically psychotic has been afraid. Right? Sure. If you're mentally healthy, then you've been afraid, and fear is good. Fear is healthy. And what we have to do is we have to learn how to control our fear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that actually inspired me to pick this topic was two people, actually. One you've actually interviewed is Victor Marx.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My opinion after watching him, listening to him, I've never met him as you have, but I feel as though he's had, just from his experiences, the fear beaten out of him, torn out of him in one way, shape, or another. He's like a human honey badger where he just has no fear anymore. But that's unusual for most people. Yeah. That type of mindset is unusual. And so, and then the next was Alex Honnold, who is the guy who may have seen the documentary Free Solo. Oh, yeah. Where the guy climbs El Capitan with no ropes. Yeah. Well, he just did another documentary where he climbs a tower in Taiwan, and no ropes, just goes up 101-story tower plus the tower and the spire on top of that, with no ropes. And again, he's another one that's genetically predisposed not to have fear, but it's a weird mindset. But one of the things that he said that I thought was really relevant more to what we're talking about here is, he goes, you do these things that are difficult and make you afraid so that you can do more things and not be afraid.
That's right.
And then he was talking about in an interview, these people now, if their plane's going to be late by a half hour, it ruins their whole day. It ruins their life. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a tragedy. Everything is, they move immediately into anxiety. They move immediately into panic because they've not actually ever done anything where they ever had to deal with fear or problems or trouble. And that just inspired me to go, that's a topic right there.
Yeah, for sure.
To talk about.
Man, this is so good. There's so many layers of psychology that surround fear. There's just a lot going on there in our minds. One of the things that you kind of touch on right there with the people who, they feel like if their flight's late, it's the end of the world. This is also known as catastrophizing, right?
That's a great word for that.
It is such a great word. Mm-hmm. I had a conversation one time with a guy a few years ago, and he was telling me he was all worked up about his car was broken and needed repair. And in the course of our conversation, he said, if I don't get this car fixed, then I'm not going to be able to keep my job. They're going to fire me if I can't get to work. And if I lose this job, I'm not going to be able to marry my girlfriend. I've been trying to save up. I want to ask her to marry me, right? And I know that if I can't get this job, or if I lose this job, she's going to leave me, right? And I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me that your future children depend on you getting this 94 Civic to run, right? And he just does. I'm like, slow down. That domino chain of thinking, of catastrophizing, is one way that fear will just cripple us, right? Because he was in paralysis because he was seeing his whole life crumble in his mind. And it's like, there's a big part of this that I'm sure we can get into on kind of like narrowing down your focus to just doing the next thing, right? Like, stop worrying about your job, stop worrying about your girl, just focus on the battery for the car, right? And I think that we can take that example, and like in anything that we're going through in life, with business, with relationships, with scenarios, if we can kind of zoom it back down, don't worry about all the possibilities that can go wrong. What is your next step that you need to take right now? And just do that one step. Suddenly your world gets smaller and it gets easier.
Yep. I find, for me personally, fear is the worst of all emotions. It's not hate, it's not anger, I feel the worst about myself, both during and immediately after an episode of fear, because it's like I judge myself as, this is a terrible reaction. And again, I'm not talking about the kind of fear where I'm being chased by a lion, where it's rational fear. I'm talking about something just comes up in common life and you are afraid for whatever reason. And you don't think right, you don't think straight. Fear goes into that process and it just starts to twist what's in your head, and you're not thinking rationally, and you can catastrophize, and you may just, it creates a death spiral of decision making, and it goes badly. And I found in a lot of cases, a lot of times the things I were afraid of was because I didn't know what to do in a particular circumstance. So the absence of information. And it's like, a lawsuit of this or that, a problem, the market crashes, stuff's blowing up, or somehow or another life gets turned upside down for some surprise that I had nothing to do with, right? Because usually, if I knew I had something to do with it, I'm really not going to be afraid of it because I caused the problem myself. So I'm stepping into it. But it's the things that were some circumstance which I wasn't in control of now happens, and now I have to deal with it. And the news of that is like instant. It's like, boom. So in those cases where I felt like I was afraid to, kind of like that type thing, is usually an absence of information and decision making and knowing what to do. And so it is. You got to calm yourself back down and start to go, okay, breathe. What do you have to do to solve the problem?
That's a really good element of this that you're bringing up, is like the control piece. And like when you don't have any control over a scenario, and part of that is not having information, because having information is a little bit of having control. When you don't have either of those things, information or control, that makes some people more afraid. And like you said, some people will do the wrong thing on purpose because at least they can do it and they can control it, right? It's kind of like the idea of like breaking up with your girlfriend before she breaks up with you. You're scared. You don't want to break up with her, but you're scared to death she's going to break up with you. So you're so scared you just do it first. It's like, it doesn't make sense, but it does because you had control. So it's like, if something bad's going to happen to me, I at least want to have the control of it. And that's a terrible way to think, right? That's a fear reaction because one does not have the ability to relax and accept the situation and be able to move forward without control and without the information, right? Like if we can say to ourselves, I don't have all the information I wish I had, and I don't have control over this situation, but I'm going to wait and see what tomorrow brings. Right? If we can move forward that way, that's what it should look like, instead of kind of wigging out and being like, oh, I'm just gonna blow everything up now,
right?
Because I can't handle the anxiety.
Yeah, 100%. It's slowing down, taking the deep breaths, trying to get your mind right again, and being able to, okay, I got to step back onto the field now. Got my bell rung for whatever reason. So in a lot of cases, like when we're sitting around the fire and we're talking to some of the guys, in so many ways. There's a lot of cases where you hear them and you're like, they're not making a decision because they're afraid to do this thing. You know, they'll complain about their job for the 30th fire in a row where they hated it, but they won't quit. The reason the person doesn't quit is they're afraid of what's on the other side. So I'd rather take the devil I know than the devil I don't know. And so what are your thoughts on that? And why do you, because again, I know you've talked to people that have done that where you can kind of see it. Mm-hmm. And it's not to invalidate the emotion, because I think going back to the people who aren't afraid are insane. Having concern about quitting your job and providing for your family is rational. It's understandable. But if you're stuck there forever, then that was a fear-based decision.
Yeah.
What's going on? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I didn't know you were going to ask me that, because this is going to sound like I absolutely did. But I was in that scenario, and I was, as I was preparing for this conversation, I was thinking about, well, when was I the most afraid? And
I wrote down some of mine too. Yeah.
One of my moments in life where I've been the most afraid had to do with leaving a job, right? And so I had already submitted my paperwork to leave the Air Force, to leave active duty. And I'd been in for 20 years, so I was institutionalized. And I was, used to being fed monthly by the government,
right?
Right. And I know the government will feed you every month if you just keep breathing and having a pulse, right? And that creates, like everybody who's been in the military for 20 years, people we cannot imagine not being in, right? And getting out, going on to the other side sounds really scary. And so I had submitted my paperwork. I was on my way out, and I was laying in bed one night, which brings up this fact that I don't know the scientific explanation for it, but most fear is worse at night. For whatever reason, everything's a little bit better in the morning, but
probably fewer distractions. Yeah. You can wallow in it more.
Yeah. There's something about morning outlook. You just wake up in the morning and you're not as terrified of life as you were the night before. But I'm laying in bed. It's like the week or the day. It's like right around the time of getting like my last active duty paycheck, right? And I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking, man, I have got 3 teenagers still in the house. This is not the right time in life. This is not the right stage in life to be risky. This does not make sense to take big financial risks in your 40s with 3 teens. Like, this is when you need to be doing your most earning. And like, you've made a terrible mistake and you need to stay in at least for a few more years, right? Get them all through high school, get them all out. Then you can be a little more risky. And that thought had crept into my mind, and I really started to panic of like, I start thinking through, okay, first thing in the morning, I can try to get my paperwork revoked, right? Like, I need to call headquarters. I need to cancel my retirement paperwork.
That fear is real in your head right now.
I'm like,
you're living.
I'm like, I gotta do whatever it takes to undo this problem I've got myself into. And anyway, I just said this kind of out loud to Carrie as we're laying there. I was like, I'm thinking this is a big mistake. I'm thinking in the morning I might get this paperwork withdrawn. I need to stay in, blah, blah, blah. And she was just super chill. Like, she was totally unriled by my fear over there. And she was like, yeah, why don't you just, get some sleep and see how you feel in the morning. And it's crazy, but in the morning, she's like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I think things will be okay. I think I'll be. And she was like, yeah. Good.
That was her snap out of it type moment.
Totally. Yeah. But like, that fear gripped me. Like, it came out of nowhere. It gripped me hard and had me thinking about changing my life plans while I'm laying there, because that fear as the man and the financial provider in our family, that I've done something risky and irresponsible, getting out of the military and pursuing, ministry, which, of course, as soon as you do the thing, right? As soon as you do the thing and you walk through that door and you turn around and you look back, like, you can't even remember anymore what you were ever afraid of.
Right.
You're like, well, this was nothing.
Right.
This was easy. I don't know what I was all worked up about. But there's a lot of fears like that.
Yeah, there's a lot. And that the thing you just mentioned, kind of looking back on it, you wonder what you were afraid of. But on the front side of it, it's a mountain. It isn't the molehill.
Oh,
you were looking at the mountain of fear. And it's
I'm
like all the
looking
things
at my
that can go wrong.
my kids starving and without shoes.
Yeah. And so what I'd like to, just let the guys know is that is so common of a thing that you see the mountain in front of you, and part of what you're feeling is completely legitimate. Again, you're making economic decisions. You are the provider. Again, age, kids, etc. But what we often find is that fear of what could go wrong stops a lot of the growth part of your life, right? So when you're in your 20s, typically early on, you're just getting started, you're just getting going. So you can quit job A. If you're living in your car, nobody cares. We work here and go there and do this and do that, and you don't have all the responsibilities. So everybody starts to, you start adulting, and you start having more of those adult responsibilities, and you feel like you're more trapped. And so you feel as though you can get stuck, and then you get afraid to make the changes. And so as I was putting this together, I was trying to figure out, where is that? What all those types of things. And I had come up with a list, and it was like simple things, moving. I'll move from go to point A to point B. But the fear of moving, I'm going to have to take my kids out of a school, and I'm going to have to go here, and I'm going to have to go here, and all the things you build up. What if you took your kids out of school? What if you homeschooled? Am I going to do this right? I'm not a teacher. I don't have this. I don't have this. All the things that that the parents will worry about. Going, I don't know anybody that's pulled their kid out of the system before, and it's a whole new adventure. Homeschooling, the quitting the job, changing the jobs. It's all of these legitimate things that came up, and I was like, getting married. Should I ask her? This is permanent. This is a lifetime thing. This is a lifetime commitment. Buying the house. Should I buy? Should I rent? Should I move now? It's all these things in our decision-making process has fear. And I think every quote I was reading before this it all comes up into the one summation of everything you want's on the other side of fear.
Yes.
But there's 100 that are exactly like that. There are all the cliches. And if we went through everything you would have heard, every quote I bring up, you will have heard 50 times. But why is that true? Why is it when you were on the other side of it, you're like, that wasn't that bad? What makes us do that? What do you think? I mean, because it is real. Like I have a business coach that I work with, Bill Pavlich. He's been a coach of mine for 15 plus years. Every time I've not done something, it's because I'm afraid to do that thing for whatever reason. I'm comfortable in the pocket that I'm in.
Yeah.
I'd rather stay here than do that. But I know if I do that, I'll get there.
Yeah.
So he keeps asking, how come you haven't? How come you haven't? Why haven't you? And you go, it's almost like the scene in Rocky. Because I'm afraid. You want me to hear it? Because I'm afraid.
Is that what you want to hear?
Let me down. That's what he does as a coach. He makes you do those types of things. But it's like, and then when you're on the other side of it, it really is true. The thing that you were afraid of does go from the mountain, and it gets crushed down into the molehill once you get on the other side. But there is something in our psychology that locks us up and focuses on that fear.
Yeah. This kind of makes me think about one of my favorite books, Gates of Fire. Stephen Pressfield is exploring the question throughout the book, his character, and it all takes place around, the Battle of Thermopylae. It all takes place around this question that's weaving through the whole book of what's the opposite of fear? Like what would be the exact opposite of it? And is this something you've ever thought about?
No, I have not read
this question.
No.
Or this question. No. And so the immediate off the cuff response that most people give is courage. But then when you think about it for a second or two, you realize like that can't be, because can you have both fear and courage at the same time? Can you show extreme courage and still be filled with fear? And so then you're like, well, yeah, of course. In fact, without fear, there is no courage. That's just craziness, right?
Right.
Courage requires you to do something that you're afraid of.
Right.
And so you realize, okay, well, that can't be the opposite if you can have them both at the same time. So like, what would be the exact polar opposite of fear? And well, the spoiler alert here is by the end of the book, the character says the opposite of fear is love. And as I read that book, I was struck with, well, oh, duh, that's exactly what God says, right? And he says, perfect love casts out fear. And so I was processing this and thinking through like those situations, like the job thing that I had, where it was like the thing that drove out that fear, the thing that was the opposite of it, was that the thing I was quitting my job for, the reason I was quitting it, the thing I wanted to go do, I loved it enough that it drove out the fear, right? You kind of, it's all like on a scale in your mind. You've got the fear, but you've got the love.
Right.
The fear is trying to tell you no, and the love is like, yeah, do it. So I think if you have enough love for something, whatever it is, like starting a business, or for a woman, you might be afraid to ask her to marry you, but if you love her enough, it'll trump the fear, right? And so I think there's a big element of fear that has to do with its opposite of love.
Yeah, and I had not thought about it in those terms, so I'll be processing that later tonight. But I have thought about the carrot and the stick of what moves people. Just through my lifetime, it's like if I work with folks, certain employees, they're carrot people, and certain employees are stick people. And it's like, no matter how much you offer them a carrot, they're like, I'm not going to do that unless you make me. There has to be a negative consequence of pain to make me move forward. And we're like that in a lot of ways also. It's like, where is that, what motivates us to take action, and when do we freeze? And I think that was, kind of the theme of the carrot or the love side of it. It's like, you think you're protecting your family by not quitting, by not moving, by not changing, by not homeschooling, by not changing churches, by not doing any of these things. And at the end of it, you're going, in my safe, unafraid decision making, I've done all the worst things. I knew that if I would have just done X, Y, or Z, it would have been actually better for the people.
Yeah.
But I can't. I have to be safe. I have to protect my family, and it's your excuse.
I'll tell you
that you don't see.
Kids are the perfect excuse for men to not do things that they know they should do. Right. It's like when you use the kid
I'd like you to all rewind that and play that back, and listen to that sentence, because it is absolutely true.
When you play the kid card, it makes you sound noble, like a great dad. Oh, I can't go work out with you tonight at Men's Alliance. I need to be with the kids. It's playing a trump card, and everybody knows it's bullcrap, but it's too great of a card for them to call you on unless there's a close relationship, right? Because there's 7 nights in a week. And it's like, are you not there with your kids for all the others, or at least a majority of the others?
Right.
Are you gone 3 to 4 nights out of the week? Like, can you not do a workout one night? So you see this, and it's used all the time. And like, I was on the verge of using it in that scenario. Well, I should probably stay in this job for the kids, right? And it's not for the kids. It's just because you don't want to do the thing.
I'm laughing because it's the Rocky scene. It's the ride that I was just doing. It's like,
Yeah.
well, now I got the house. Now I got the kid. Now I got this. It's the excuse not to do it. So that just popped into my head.
Men, you need to call your buddies out more on using that the kid excuse.
Yeah.
To stay in your fear.
Yeah. And I know people, they have complained about their job since they're 18 years old, and they're at the same, doing the same thing, doing the same work. All the different things all of the changes, in my personal life, and a lot of the guys that have, that tell the stories of, again, you had to overcome an objective, a real fear, legitimate concern. Mm-hmm. It's not downplaying it. So I don't think anything we're trying to say is to delegitimize the thing that you actually are worried about. The kids, you do have to provide. It's a real solid thing. Yeah. It's a real objective.
That's true. It is real. It's not completely irrational.
Right.
Right. I wasn't like about to not quit because of a fear of lions. Right. It was like, no, that's a rational fear.
Sure.
But even a rational fear can be blown out of proportion.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's a good distinction.
Because if you were fired from your job, are you saying your kids would starve? Are you saying you're going to lose the house? Are you saying all of these things would have happened? Or would you look for another job somewhere else? It's like I got laid off. Again, I remember, during the last financial crisis, tens of thousands of people are being walked out of their office. Mm-hmm. Here's a banker's box, put your crap in it and get out. They did nothing to cause that problem. They did nothing to deserve it necessarily. And it was a surprise. Mm-hmm. And they're all paying for their families. Mm-hmm. And so you've just been booted. And it happens in the tens of thousands. Mm-hmm. And so, what do? You got to go find something else to do. You have to solve the problem. So if you have to solve the problem, now you do it. But a lot of us won't make the decision to step into it automatically. It's like, well, if I got fired, of course I'd get another job. Well, no kidding. Well, if that's a solution, that's on the other side.
That's a great point. That's a great way to look at it. If this thing happened to you involuntarily, would you be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And again, it's like all these decisions for, stepping outside the box, right? Homeschooling. I know when my wife and I were considering homeschooling, I literally at the time didn't know it was something that was legal. Like I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of homeschooling when she brought it up. I'm like, can you do it? And then her fears were, am I going to do it well enough? Am I qualified to do this? How do I do this? And so again, legitimate concerns, legitimate fears, but again, you find the solution, you get the end, you talk to other people that have done it. It's like, you don't have to be a physics expert in order to help them learn physics.
Right.
You have to, you're a moderator essentially in a lot of cases, but it's a valid concern. You're doing something that's outside the box. Vaccine mandates, holding your ground on certain things. Mm-hmm. You're afraid of what are your friends going to think?
That was a big one.
What are your friends going to think?
Yeah.
You come out and you take a stand on a position one way or the other. Well, not everybody's going to be happy with the decision you make. So now, did you make the decisions because you were afraid that people were going to be angry at you and you just went along? Or did you stand your ground? Well, standing your ground, there's fear on that. It's like, if I do this, Oh, and speaking of fear, on the way here, I was listening to your Mohammed Faridi interview.
Oh.
So these people in Iran that are
those people know fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those that explain a little bit about what Mohammed Faridi is doing.
Faridi, his organization is IranChristians.org. And so he was a Muslim living in Iran and adult in the Republican Guard, Iranian military, gets out of the military. His friend witnesses to him. He becomes a Christian. He accepts Christ, which then initiates this entire chain of dominoes of leaving Islam and his entire family, his entire culture and everything. And people are out to kill him. and he has to flee the country, right? And so you got a guy with a couple bucks in his pocket buying a bus ticket to Turkey and can't go back, and there's nothing to go back to. And this is a fairly common story for most people that have become Christians in Iran. Is you lose everything. You lose your family, you lose your business, you lose everything, and you lose it quickly and irrevocably. And so, yeah, hearing a Iranian Christian tell you their story when you're an American Christian, that helps put our little fears into a perspective of global proportion.
Right. I found that also, again, I had just listened to that this morning on the way over, but it fit into the thing that I mentioned earlier with Alex Honnold talking about the average person doesn't live in fear. They live in such a cushioned environment that every decision outside of their regular daily life creates fear, anxiety, trepidation, anything that stops them from, I want to just do the same thing I was doing yesterday. And so the decisions that these people are making that actually put their lives in jeopardy, when you listen to him talk about how, he's saving thousands of people and their lives are better and it's different. I didn't know this. And it opens up an entire world to them that they had not known until he shared certain things with them. Because again, the way society is closed off and how they treat people and what they do once they have power, it's terrifying what the governments that are under Sharia law.
For sure. There's something to this, right? Like we all know this extreme example, the saying, somebody with nothing to lose, right? You see that character in a lot of stories. The person with nothing to lose is not afraid of very much.
Right.
So you think about the opposite of that is the person who's got everything and it's so cushy, and that's us. Yeah. That's most Americans, right? We've got it so easy. We've got it so cushy. We're so comfortable that actually makes us far more afraid than the Muhammad Faridis of the world, right? The person who's living, in Kazakhstan or Iran or Ukraine right now will be more bold and move quicker into scarier places than we will.
Sure.
Because we have more to lose and we're more comfortable. So I think we look at those are obviously extreme examples, but we look at that and we can scale that down to our own worlds, right? And realize, well, if I start taking small steps weekly to put myself in slightly uncomfortable situations, that'll make me less clingy to the comforts of life and make me be able to do scarier things and be bolder and take steps out there into areas that were maybe scary for me a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. And so we can start to kind of stretch and grow our courage muscles. Right? But we have to exercise them. You gotta do small things that scare you.
And so tagging on to that, when we do some of the goals at Men's Alliance and some of the patch classes, when we talk about setting goals, we'll talk to people to look at all these different areas of your life. And in area A, you might be great. If you rated yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, you might be a 10 here, but you might be a 2 here. And the 2 is either something that you've completely neglected or you're afraid to take action on. And it could be either of those. But it's not necessarily have to get 2 to 10, but what if I get 2 to a 4?
Yeah.
What if I got a 5 to a 7? And it's about examining. It's looking at how is this working for you? And why am I not, now that I've looked at it, am I going to stay where I am or am I going to make a decision to change? And those decisions to change, you need to evaluate it and you need to have the courage to step into it. It isn't the insanity mindset. It's there is a valid, legitimate reason that this could go sideways for me, but it's a calculated risk. And for those types of decisions, it isn't life change. It isn't telling your parents that you've become a Christian in Iran, where the gentleman speaking talked about he needed to run away because his father tried to kill him.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not. This is not that, right? This is not that. But you're still afraid. Again, it's getting out of your comfort zone to do things that will make your life better, that will help you, help your family, kids, etc. Again, it's every aspect of it, but it is that thing. Everything you want is on the other side of fear, and the 50,000 quotes that talk about fear. It really is. It's almost universal when we look at the fear quotes. It was, I did it anyway. It's not that I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
I did it while being afraid, because again, it's not the absence of it. And that it was the molehill on the other side. What was a mountain up front was the molehill on the other side. And really, if you break it down, most quotes about fear and success and all that is all really that. And because I went through 50 quotes, top 10.
Yeah.
They all were basically saying the same thing. And you had Aristotle and Cicero and Nelson Mandela all saying exactly the same thing through centuries and millennia. You're like, that really is just it. It's like, I was afraid. Yes, I was scared. Yes, it was scared. Anyway. And then I went and did that thing. And I totally want to pound on the point that you made. When it's cushy, you get more comfortable and it's harder to get in motion again.
Yeah.
And everybody lives indoors, and everybody's got heat, and and it's hard to make those decisions that can change your life one way or the other. But I would recommend to the guys to examine where you are, what you're doing, and take the steps to actually move forward, because the alternative is not everything was better and you're not going to be the hero because you were safe. You're going to use that as the excuse of why you didn't do the things you wanted to do and succeed. And I was like, that's got to be a topic we talk about.
What's one of the times in your life where you've been the most afraid?
So I've had times where I've been physically afraid, where I was actually, robbed while being on a truck, or attempted robbery. Somebody pulled a knife, and I fought back. It was actually entertaining, because I fought. I had done martial arts for a number of years, but this was the first. I was still like maybe 19. But it was the first time I'm fighting an adult male, two of them actually, live, and there's no rules, and we're going. And so I fought pretty much with the prowess of the Tasmanian devil, just knees, elbows, and fists and stuff like that. But I shook all the way home. The adrenaline had kicked in. Yeah. And I got into the fight or flight thing, and I was like, well, there is no flight. I'm in a truck. There's nowhere for me to go. There is no flight. So we went to fight. And even though I was successful in it, my leg shook the whole way home. And I don't mean because I tapped my leg. I mean because it was uncontrollable physical shaking on the way home, because I was afraid. So from a physical standpoint, that is, as you know, that is extremely common. Everybody has that after a fight. Even seasoned warriors who have fought their entire lives, it's your body's adrenaline dump, right? And that doesn't happen during the fight. Right. Right. So like you're completely, there are warriors who are completely in control, locked in, pure discipline, steady as a rock, win the fight. After the fight, here it comes. Whoa, right? But the first time you're in a fight, or the first time you've killed a deer, right? And that happens afterwards, it shocks us the first time, because we don't know if this is normal. Only after you've gone through this a few times. And I've talked to old guys that have, been hunters or fighters their whole life. It still happens every time. Yeah. Yeah. And you can kind of tell it's their first time, because they try to hide it. Right. They're trying to pretend they're not shaking. Yeah. Like embarrassment. And I was doing that too. I was like, had my hands on my knees. Like, I'm not shaking. I'm not shaking. You're shaking. Yeah. And so totally. In business, I had a partnership breakup, but I was younger and I didn't know what the rules were. right? So I didn't know how bad this could be for me. What is this? We didn't have the proper agreements in place. We kind of had more stuff on the handshake back then. It started when I was in my 20s. And again, I didn't know anything about really business agreements and things like that. So when we split up, it was like, oh my gosh, the lawyers are coming in. And it was that absence of information that made me afraid. So I don't know how bad things could go.
Yeah.
It's almost like people have described in divorce cases, the anxiety goes through the moon because they don't know what they could lose, right? A divorce lawyer goes, look, they're going to split stuff down the middle. We don't care if he cheated, she cheated, he did drugs, they did drugs, nobody cares. 50-50, this is it, custody, joint custody, unless you can prove it. It's almost a formula. But the lawyers don't want to share that up front because it's going to be 9,000 billable hours if you're going to be fighting over a pillow, right? But it's like, with the business, this is how it was going to work out. This is the math. This is this. Well, if I'd have known that, I would have been happy about it, but I wouldn't have been as afraid. And so the other time it was, again, from a business perspective, during the financial crash, we owned securities like Lehman Brothers bonds. We own Washington Mutual because, again, we say those names now, but at the time they were the financial powerhouses. Lehman Brothers was the largest investment bank in the United States. Its credit rating was through the moon. Washington Mutual, same thing. So we owned bonds, and it was like when they went to zero. Like Lehman went to zero. We were able to sell the WAMU bonds for at a discount, but Lehman, you woke up in the morning and it went, if you had $50,000 worth of those bonds, you got up in the morning and you had zero. So I'm like, I'm going to get sued. I'm out of business. I'm done. My career is over because the only thing that I think saved me was the fact that it was all over TV. They knew Kevin didn't do this, but you were driving the bus and you did put them in these investments and those investments went to zero. I'm like, even if most of them will say fine, okay, but somebody's going to bring up a class action lawsuit. And so for a while, I'm like, oh my gosh, just complete, not sleeping, not eating, not do all of that stuff. And it was because, first of all, you have these people who genuinely lost money. So you feel badly about that. You were the person who made the decision. The responsibility was on me to make that decision. Could have sold it the day before. You could have made an argument that I should have known and I should have done this and I should have done that. But I'm going to be the guy holding the potato when in this game. So there was a lot of fear, and it turned out to be unwarranted. And the news really helped because they could see that this was all illegal and all this, and they made it. But during the process, I was like scared to death that this was the end of my game. And again, same thing. And I was a sole provider. It was my only job. And I'm like, I'm not really fit to do anything else. I have 3 skills that I could do. And there was a lot of fear in that for me. And same thing on the other side of it. It was, it was fine. Mm-hmm. But looking at it from the front of this mountain, it was a mountain and it wasn't a molehill in my head at that time, definitely. Yeah. And so I was thinking in fear, and I hate that. It makes me, I beat myself up over it because it's like I name call myself to all these things that I would never say on a live broadcast. But, the voice inside my head that really despises the person who is afraid. And I hate the fear side of it. So now, knowing that, I try to coach myself out of it. I try to walk myself through the process faster than I would have maybe years ago. But it's not. I live in a world where I have no fear. Right. I'm not that guy. I'm not a Victor Marx or an Alex Honnold. I have fear. I have become better at dealing with a lot of the things, but I have it, and I hate it. I really do despise it.
I think there's I've got this thought that there's a story being told, right? And sometimes I view myself as a character in a story. Mm-hmm. And you're writing your story every day. And the question is, what kind of story do you want to write about yourself? What kind of story are you creating? What's your character going to do in this story? Mm-hmm. And I find that this is a really useful exercise for overcoming a lot of fear because we could say, do you want your character to play it safe? would you rather your character try and fail, or would you rather your character just not try at all? Play it safe, right?
Yeah.
And if you can get outside of yourself to that little extent, and see yourself more objectively as a figure in a story, and I was actually doing this before I found out that there was a name for this, and it's actually called narrative therapy.
I actually have not heard of it as narrative therapy.
And when I studied this, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I've been doing, right? Mm-hmm. And when I've coached people, I've told them, if you were watching a movie about your life right now, and it's at this exact point in the movie, what would you want your character to do next? Right. People they're coming to me for coaching about, should I get married, or should I start this business, or should I go to this school, or whatever their dilemma is. If you can get them to see it as on the big screen. Right. Imagine yourself sitting there eating a popcorn and you're watching a movie about you. What do you want your character to do?
Yep.
What's everybody in the theater cheering for, right?
Bob went to work every day for 37 years for the rest of his life in the same office, had the same lunch and the same coffee every day. It's what a movie that's going to be.
The end.
Yeah, the end.
Yeah, so I think sometimes there's that little bit of element of kind of like getting outside of your own head. Mm-hmm. Get outside your own head and see this for what it is for a minute. I
think that's a great exercise.
This is a story that you are the writer.
Yeah.
Right? This is your choose your own adventure.
I'm going to steal that if I do goals again.
Do it.
I like that. I like that as the narrative, because again, it is the what stories will they tell about you?
That's right.
And what's the movie? I think it was Troy. It was like,
oh,
I'm not going out to fight. Yeah. That's why no one will remember your name.
That is why no one will remember your name.
Yeah. And we all we over dramatize that, like as guys. Those are the cool things, right? You're the great warrior in the story. In your own mind, if something happens at your church, you're the guy who pulls his gun and makes the shot 50 yards across with your, open sights on the 40, right? But the real courage of your day-to-day living, and what really matters in having the courage, is living your life better, living your life more full, and it is dealing with fear. And it is something that's common to all of us. And so, getting a handle on that is one, being aware that it exists, and that you have a list full of reasonable excuses not to do something, which you brought up earlier, which I think is a fabulous point. And then dealing with that and trying to move forward anyway. Everything about your life is going to be better. Have hard conversations. Again, you don't want to have conversations with your kids, daughter, spouse, etc., boss, colleague, because it could go wrong. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it goes left unsaid. Well, I could have fixed this back in the day. We let something fester forever. So give me one example of something that in building Men's Alliance and getting this thing and developing it, that it's been like, I don't know if this is a good idea or not. Do I have the stones to do this or not?
Well, so much of this, I think. Let me start off by you were dropping some great quotes earlier. One of my favorites is the Man in the Arena speech by Teddy Roosevelt, and that ends by saying, at least if he fails, will at least fail while daring greatly. Mm-hmm. And his place will never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And that element right there has framed a lot of the ways that my wife and I make decisions. It's, are we okay with failing greatly at this thing?
Yep.
Would we rather fail big at this thing than to not do it at all, right? And this kind of also reminds me of the William Wallace Braveheart speech, right? Lying in your bed one day many years from now, would you not trade all the days from this to that?
Yep.
Right? And so I do think like this a lot when I'm got a scary decision to make. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, when you're 80, would you would you rather go back and risk everything and try it and fail rather than say, I wish I would have tried? The not knowing is to me, that's scarier than failing. And so this is just another tool for guys to kind of like think about. If you're wrestling with the fear of, I don't know, leaving a job or starting one or starting a family or moving across the country, ask yourself, would you rather get out there or start the business or whatever and fail? And like you said, you just start over, right? Sometimes you just say, I failed and I lost everything and now I'm starting over from scratch again, right? Would you rather be in that situation?
I have put out a request across our group me to find a guy that has gone through the bankruptcy.
Oh, good.
Blown it up
Good.
and made it back. I'm waiting to.
Good. We're going to find
I just
him.
started that.
If you're listening to this, we're going to find
Yeah,
you, and we
yeah.
want to hear your story. Yeah. So for me, that's a big part of it is understanding that. Okay, here's what failure will look like. If you fail at this thing, it's going to look like you declaring bankruptcy, having your home foreclosed on, and having to downsize. Okay, and then what? Then you move into a smaller house or apartment. Okay, and then what? And then you have dinner and go to bed, right? And so it's like you're not going to die in any of these scenarios.
Right.
It's like you're going to be okay, and you will have created a story for your character of a guy who went all in and tried something really big and it didn't work out.
Yep.
And you know what? That's still not the end of your story. Who knows what will happen from then? So I'd say that's a big trick that my wife and I have used when we've made some real big, scary moves is we know what failure would look like and we're okay with that, right? We'd rather fail on this thing than just not do it, play it totally safe, and be old, boring people without stories. So
my kids, and a lot of the people that I talk with in business, they love the stories of my disasters more than anything else. It's not the successes, it's the grit on some of the stories in the beginning that help get things started. But they really do love hearing about something blew up in my face, and you're like, well, tell me about that again. And what went wrong?
I think that the value,
just like the movie scenes where it's like I'm sorry to talk over you, but it's like the movie scenes where we're now seeing the hero in a catastrophe before he rises.
Yes.
That's what they want.
That's right.
Show me the catastrophe scene again.
The value of those catastrophes, the value of those failures increases. Like their value goes up. The more successful the character is, right? Because his past failures, his learning moments, become even more diametrically at odds to where he is now.
Right.
So it's like, if you just a guy who's just one failure after another his entire life and he's got nothing but them, those aren't valuable stories.
Correct.
Right?
Yep, still a loser. Started
for
as a
that
loser,
guy,
stayed
his
there.
one success story is of wild value.
Right.
Right. And so I think it kind of makes sense that whatever story you have fewer of will increase in value.
So as we begin to wrap this up, if we are talking to, a lot of the guys that we see around the fire, and we're given that, piece of advice just from not so much fear of, again, being shot at, being eaten by a lion kind of thing, what would you tell them to try to deal with? Or let me just shorten the question.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
Yeah.
Regarding fear.
You have to go through it. Whatever the thing is that you're afraid of, and even if it is combat, there is no way out of fear but through it. Because, and I'll break that down. If you're afraid of going, let's just say walking into a room, like you don't know what's on the other side of that door, and you don't want to go in, and you don't go. let's say you back up and you don't go through that door. That fear in you, it grows. The door gets even scarier. The other side, if you go back home and go to bed and you come back the next day, it's 100 times more terrifying now. Okay. And the longer you avoid the thing, the scarier it gets. So whatever it is you're afraid of, but going through the door is how you dissolve the fear. When you go through these doors in life, these forks in the road, that we're presented with, that's the way, the only way to overcome fear. And you can start with smaller doors and go through some smaller ones and do these smaller ones that get you better at walking into situations where you don't have control, you don't have all the information, it's uncertain. But you have to start walking through one. Otherwise, your world will get smaller and smaller and smaller because the longer we live, safer, and more boring and less of a great story and all that stuff, right? And so, when I was flying a lot of combat missions in the Air Force, there would be times where you just had this really bad feeling about a flight, which is a terrible feeling to have. It's ominous.
I can imagine.
Right? You're like, why do I feel this way? I haven't felt this way the last 10 flights. Why do I feel this way now? Why did I have that dream last night about the engines falling off? Right? And it's like, for some reason, you don't want to fly today. Right? There's bad things in the air, and you've got this gut feeling, and the weather's bad, and you had a weird dream. Well, you know what you're going to do? You're going to fly. That's the only path for you, is you're going to get in and you're going to go fly.
Right.
And, when it's God's time for you to come home, it's God's time for you to come home. And when it's his time, there's not a thing you can do.
No sense being
and
afraid.
when it's not his time, there's not a thing that could happen. Right. And so kind of we live our life like putting our hope, trust, faith in God. We're like, God, you put me here, I'm going to fly. Everything is in your hands. I'm walking through this door, right? And when we do that, what happens is the fear gets smaller, because the next time you have a bad feeling about a flight, it's not that big a deal because you've already done this. You're like, I've had this bad feeling 100 times. And what you do is you do everything like you normally do, and you get in the aircraft and you fasten your seatbelts and you go fly. And, I actually saw a guy on, I think it was like my second deployment, who flew one mission, came back from it, and went into the squadron commander's office and said he was a conscientious objector and wanted to go home. Right. And I don't know the guy. I can't remember his name. He was in my squadron, but I didn't really know him. But, the stories circulate about him. Like, where'd he go? Where'd that guy go? Oh, you wouldn't believe this. Check this out. So I can only imagine like turning around and running away from that door, how much that fear has grown in his life ever since. Right. But for those of us who walk through the door, the fear just gets smaller and smaller. So I would say to the guys listening to this, like, whatever it is, realize that if you don't face it, if you don't go do it, if you avoid it, it will grow and it will make your world smaller. And then kind of the other part of that is, as Christians, understanding that we're not in control of anything. God's got this. Ask him for wisdom, ask him for courage, and then walk boldly through the door as if the creator of the universe is on your side, because he is.
Boom. I think that's a perfect way to wrap this up. Seriously, I don't have anything I'm going to add on top of that that's going to make that any more clear, encouraging, or better. So, Goose, thank you so much for being here in another one of the Bonsai Chronicles.
Yes, I love it.
And we are helping men. We're trying to shorten the learning curve with guys doing life. And so this is we know fear has been at an obstruction in guys feeling that they can move forward, do things, make decisions, make changes, because again, they're afraid of the consequences. They don't know what's on the other side. And just encouraging them to deal with that and walk through that door and go forward knowing God's in charge. I think that's fabulous. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.